All the latest news and inspiring stories from the Philippine News Agency. It is July 21, 2021, and here are the stories making the headlines. Fighting a fierce enemy, more vaccines will be allocated to areas with detected cases of the more transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant as authorities race against time to prevent its spread. The government is working on more vaccine deliveries for the coming months. Another 500,000 doses of American-made Pfizer jabs are set to arrive in the country later today. Over 18,000 rebels returned to the folds of the law through the government's whole-of-nation approach in fighting insurgency. And clean, healthy, and delicious, the Tourism Department promotes Mindanao's best halal cuisine even for non-Muslims. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The local government units and the Philippine National Police will enforce all laws, ordinances, omnibus guidelines, and community quarantine protocols to keep people safe from the Delta variant of COVID-19. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says the department will soon issue a memorandum for strategic plans to combat the more contagious Delta variant. The Department of Health has earlier said that a patient infected with Delta variant can infect as many as 8 people in one sitting.
Tutupad po ng ating LGUs at Philippine National Police ang lahat ng batas, ordinansa at omnibus IATF omnibus guidelines at community quarantine protocols para sa kaligtasan ng lahat. Kaya wag pong mangamba ang ating mga kababayan sapagkat tayo ay may mga nakahandang plano para sa COVID-Delta variant. Ating hihigpitan ang mga border controls, lalo na ang mga international airports at seaports.
Local authorities in Zamboanga are tracking down 4 people, including a 19-year-old female who has gone into hiding after she tested positive for COVID-19. This after a COVID-positive patient boarded the same fish carrier with them while on their way to the public market on July 16. The patient is a crew member of an international barge whose route included Indonesia, which is infested with the Delta variant of COVID-19. He was allowed to board the fish carrier by its driver after showing pertinent documents but with pending swab test results. His COVID-19 test result in Cagayan de Oro City was only released when he arrived in Zamboanga City. The 3 passengers are advised to immediately turn themselves in for necessary quarantine procedures and to avoid endangering public health. Meanwhile, the 19-year-old woman who has gone into hiding is a native of Basilan Province. She left her boarding house where she found out that she is COVID-19 positive. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says more COVID-19 vaccines will be given to areas where the more transmissible Delta variant of the coronavirus was detected. Galvez said at least 1 Delta variant case has been confirmed in Guing'oog City. He said the National Task Force is also set to visit General Santos City to inspect the status of its border control measures and vaccination program, as the city is frequently visited by fishermen from Indonesia and Malaysia.
Because of the Delta, we are redeploying our vaccines to the Delta variant area of concerns in Region 10, in NCR, in Region 6, at saka po yung mga ECQ at MECQ areas.
Meanwhile, the task force assures there is enough supply of COVID-19 vaccines until next month. Galvez says the government is working on the delivery of more supplies for September.
And then, yung ating stockpile, doses to be administered on stockpile on the different warehouses is 12.8 million. Nasabi na po natin na yung 12.8 million ay equivalent po yan sa 32 days. Nakagamitin po natin na ang average is 400,000 a day. So meron po tayong ample na supply na hindi po tayo kakabahan sa month ng August. Ang titingnan po natin ngayon, yung month ng September.
COVID-19 inoculation in the province covers more priority groups as vaccines are continuously pouring in. The details from Marita Moa.
Hundreds of senior citizens in Lawag City received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Norman Rabago of the Ilocos Norte vaccination team says the first largest vaccination rollout in the province focused on the elder people as they are at a higher risk of developing severe COVID-19 symptoms. The Provincial Health Task Force earlier reported that 80% of their COVID-19 patients were elderly and persons with comorbidities. In Pampanga, the provincial government has rolled out its COVID-19 vaccination drive for Kapampangan overseas workers bound to depart the country. The local government says this is in recognition of the sacrifices of the overseas Filipino workers and their vital contribution to the economy. Aside from the vaccination program, the province has earlier launched its Balik Pinas, Balik Pampanga program where more than 5,000 OFWs benefited from the fast-tracked repatriation program. And in Bacolod City, more than 50,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines were delivered by the national government. Mayor Evelio Leonardia said this is the biggest volume they have received in one delivery. The jobs include the single-dose Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer. Leonardia thanked vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. for keeping his word to keep Bacolod among the priorities for vaccine allocation. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says more donated vaccines from China may arrive next month. Galvez said the COVAX facility is facilitating the vaccine donations not only from China but also from other countries such as Japan and the United States.
Meron po kaming nahiringan din na yung COVAX baka po mag-donate ng Chinese vaccine, either Sinopharm or Sinovac. And it will be available according to them next month. Meron pang additional 3 million po na sa COVAX donation sharing. And it's also set to arrive either July or August. And also we have been told by the Ambassador Cruz, that they are willing to donate 415,000 AstraZeneca po. And they promised that they will deliver it this July.
In other news, China has approved the use of Sinovac for 3 to 17 years old. The Chinese embassy in Manila said the approval is based on Phase 3 clinical trial data that suggests that Sinovac is at least 98.9% effective in producing antibodies, a higher efficacy than in a population over 18 years old. The embassy said the study involved 180 volunteers within the age group. The number of individuals who are willing to get vaccinated against COVID-19 is already picking up. The Philippines has so far received almost 28 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. The jabs are procured by the government and the private sector, as well as donations from other countries. As of July 18, the Philippines has administered 50,096,261 doses, of which 4,708,073 are already fully vaccinated. Some of our kababayan share their experience of getting jabbed.
Ngayon, ang na-experience ko nito, hindi ako nilagnat. Pero ito talaga masakit. Ngayon, hindi ko maiangat. Sabi ko, bakit kaya ganito? Ngayon, kumuha ako ng bimpo na maligamgam, ginanyang ko. Dinampi-dampian ko para umano yung init niya. Kasi mainit eh, tsaka bumubukol. Tapos nakikiramdam ako para akong umiinit. Uminom na ako ng biogesic. After 1 day, 3 times a day, na ininom ko yung biogesic, nawala naman, naging okay ako. Kinabukasan, naglaban na ako.
Sa akin, wala po akong naramdaman, kundi kunting sakit lang po dito sa braso. Yun lang po. Pero wala po akong naramdaman kahit ano. Basta yung kirot lang po sa may braso. Yun lang po.
Still to come, the Interior Department slams lies spread by the Makabayan Bloc on the Barangay Development Program. And next year's polls are seen to help boost the country's economic recovery. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday said the mended relationship between the Philippines and China has made it easy to ask Chinese ships to leave Philippine waters. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque reported on Monday that the Philippine Coast Guard drove away a Chinese naval warship spotted sailing within the country's exclusive economic zone. Duterte agreed with Roque that the Chinese warship left Philippine waters because of the country's improved ties with China. He said sending Coast Guard instead of Navy ships in the West Philippine Sea is part of the diplomatic approach to settle disputes in the area. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana also said the Chinese ship left to avoid confrontation as they were really near Palawan. Roque is optimistic that the PCG will be recognized properly for driving away foreign vessels in the country's EEZ. On July 13, BRP Cabra spotted and drove away Chinese Navy warship 189 at the Marie Luis Bank near El Nido, Palawan. Armed Forces Chief General Cirilito Sobejana has pledged the military support for the development of Pag-asa Island and the protection of the Kalayaan Island group. In a virtual meeting with Palawan Governor Jose Alvarez, Sobejana acknowledged the need to turn Pag-asa Island into a logistics hub to protect Kalayaan's biodiversity and the livelihood of its fishing communities. Sobejana hailed the initiatives of Palawan's provincial government in proposing to declare Kalayaan as a protected area under Republic Act 7586 or the National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992. The discussion included further development of Pag-asa Island as a haven for Filipino fishermen as well as a possible tourist destination. These measures would require expansion and construction of facilities that are aimed at sustaining an increase in economic activities on the island. The Department of Interior and Local Government, or DILG, on Tuesday slammed the Makabayan bloc for spreading fake news about the Barangay Development Program. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya called out the Makabayan bloc for seeking to deprive remote barangays of government programs and projects. He said they want to keep these areas undeveloped, poor, and isolated so that these can be infiltrated and controlled by the New People's Army, or NPA. Malaya, also spokesperson of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, deplored the news that BDP funds were squandered and wasted. He also branded as fake news the Makabayan's claim that the BDP will be used to campaign for administration candidates. Malaya said the implementation of the BDP is widely supported by local government units. The program seeks to develop some 800 barangays that have been cleared of the NPA and its allied organizations. Over 18,000 former communist terrorist rebels, including 92 child soldiers, have returned to the fold of the law and are now enjoying normal lives through the whole-of-nation integration program implemented by the Duterte administration since 2016. Major General Ernesto Torres, commander of the 10th Infantry Division in southern Mindanao, said there is a continuous trend of rebels abandoning the communist movement. He said government efforts have unmasked the pointless revolution waged by the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, and National Democratic Front. Torres said from 2016, the government forces were able to trim down the number of communist guerrilla fronts from 23 to 6. Task Force Balik Loob Chair Reynaldo Mapagu also said the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or ECLIP, contributed to the surrender of fighters from various terror groups. Residents of a conflict-affected village in Mindanao have denounced the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters and the path of violent extremism preached by the terror group. The people of Barangay Pagatin, Datu Salibo have withdrawn support to the extremists in a ceremony in Barangay Magaslong, Datu Piang Town on Tuesday. They took their oath of allegiance to the government and signed a fatwa, or local edict, that states they will no longer support all forms of violent extremism. The activity was a result of the community support program conducted by the Bravo Company of the 6th Infantry Battalion to clear the barangay from the influence of the BIFF and other extremist groups. Lieutenant Colonel Charlie Banaag, commander of the Army 6th Infantry Battalion, said they also aim to make the residents resilient from the recruitment of violent extremists. In our business news, the economy is likely to return to pre-pandemic growth levels by 2022, due partly to the impact of the May 2022 national polls. RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort also said inflation and interest rates are also expected to be back to pre-pandemic levels next year. Ricafort said he expects government spending, especially on infrastructure, to increase a few months before the national polls so as not to violate the election spending ban. He said some incumbent officials rushed to complete various government projects before the election ban. He also expected consumer spending to increase as candidates spend more during the campaign period. Last year, gross domestic product growth contracted by 9.5% due largely to the impact of the pandemic. Economic managers have set this year's domestic growth at 6 to 7%. For 2022, the GDP target was set at 7% to 9%. Up next, a bridge connects tourists to popular beaches in Sipalay City. And healthy, delicious, and clean, we take a peek of Mindanao's best Halal certified cuisine. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. The government has implemented over 15,000 infrastructure projects in Central Luzon as part of the Duterte administration's Build, Build, Build program. Also recently completed is a bridge connecting tourists to two popular beaches in Sipalay City. More on this from Benj Bondo.
The 75-meter bridge meant to connect tourists to two popular beach areas in Sipalay City, Negros Occidental, has been completed. The public now has easier access to the pristine beaches of Sugar and Langub Beach Resorts in Barangay Nauhang. The Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, said the bridge links two sitios separated by a natural waterway leading to the ocean and previously reachable only by boat. The project is expected to encourage the opening of businesses catering to tourists and provide easy access in transporting agricultural and marine products and patients during emergencies. Sipalay is dubbed the Jewel of Sugar Island for its white sand beaches and crystal clear waters, attracting both foreign and domestic tourists. Meanwhile, the DPWH reported that the Duterte administration has implemented over 15,000 infrastructure projects in Central Luzon since 2016 as part of its mission to propel countryside development. Under the Build, Build, Build program, notable projects included the Plaridel Bypass, Pulilan-Baliwag Diversion Road, Subic-Freeport Expressway, New Clark City Phase, Clark International Airport New Terminal Building, and Central Luzon Link Expressway Phase 1. The agency has also completed the construction, maintenance, upgrading, and rehabilitation of a total of over 2,400 kilometers of road and 489 national bridges. DPWH Secretary Mark Villar said not even the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic could stop them from realizing the national government's goal to erect more vital infrastructures across the country. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Pondok.
In our news overseas, a total of 71 people accredited for the Tokyo Olympics have tested positive for COVID-19 as of Tuesday, just days before the start of the major sports event. Among those who tested positive were athletes, officials, and volunteers. Czech beach volleyball player Ondřej Perusic and his partner David Schweiner will not be able to compete in the Olympics because the former tested positive for coronavirus. A member of the U.S. gymnastics team also tested positive for COVID-19. On Sunday, 3 members of the South African men's soccer team were also infected. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga expressed his confidence in successfully delivering the Tokyo Olympic Games despite the continued threat of COVID-19. During the opening of the 138th International Olympic Committee session on Tuesday, Suga said the pandemic situation is making progress, especially with the arrival of vaccines. He asked for the cooperation of everyone as he vowed to protect the health and security of the Japanese public, Olympic athletes, and stakeholders. Olympic host city Tokyo has entered a state of emergency, which will be in place until August 22nd due to surging virus infections. Japan had barred spectators from attending the Olympics scheduled from July 23 to August 8. In sports, majority of the Philippine delegation has arrived at the Olympic Village in Tokyo, Japan, just a few days before the opening ceremony. Chef de Mission Nonong Araneta said the Filipino athletes are already training. Pole vaulter EJ Obiena is due at the village on Friday, while runner Christina Knott is staying at a hotel in Nagasaki, where the training venue is located. U.S. Women's Open champion Yuka Saso and fellow golfers Bianca Pagtanganan and Juvic Pagunsan are staying at separate hotels. Athletes and delegation members have to follow an activity plan in getting from one venue to another, one of the protocols to guarantee the safety of everyone from COVID-19. Athletes will also be swab tested every 4 days. Meanwhile, Philippine Sports Commission Chair William Ramirez is confident of the Philippines' chances to win a gold medal in the Olympics. This is Ramirez's 3rd time to oversee the Olympics as PSC chair, the first two being in Beijing 2008 and Rio de Janeiro 2016. Ramirez said he had the privilege of watching over weightlifter Heidelin Diaz, who debuted in Beijing and eventually won a silver medal in Rio. He said Diaz and 18 other Filipinos who are competing have the potential to win the country's first Olympic gold medal or perhaps even more. The Department of Tourism launched on Tuesday the Halal Culinary Tourism, a program aiming to attract even non-Muslims to try Mindanao's best halal certified food. The DOT showcased halal certified and Muslim-friendly establishments across the regions of Mindanao. It also highlighted local dishes inspired by traditional Moro cuisine and cooked with spices and other ingredients available in the region. The food tourism program will document culinary practices, create experiences and attractions for travelers, and promote the halal tourism industry in the regions of Mindanao. The DOT is confident this initiative would promote not only Mindanao's cuisine, but also its people's culture and tradition. Participating establishments said the program is not only an opportunity to promote and improve their business, but also to show that halal cuisine suits everyone's tastes. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Fighting a fierce enemy, more vaccines will be allocated to areas with detected cases of the more transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant as authorities race against time to prevent its spread. The government is working on more vaccine deliveries for the coming months. Another 500,000 doses of American-made Pfizer jabs are set to arrive in the country later today. Over 18,000 rebels returned to the folds of the law through the government's whole-of-nation approach in fighting insurgency. And clean, healthy, and delicious, the Tourism Department promotes Mindanao's best halal cuisine even for non-Muslims. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.